Okay. Once again, we are still at Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. We have finished the issue of whatever things are pure. On tonight, we're going to start now on whatever things are lovely. Whatever things are lovely. Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. I want you to keep in mind now, as you look at Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, that this is the fifth of the 6 objects of right thought that the Apostle Paul presents as the answer concerning worry. I also want you to keep in mind that Paul here is stressing the object of thought rather than the fact of thought. Okay? The object of thought rather than the fact of thought. I'll explain as we get into detail what Paul is stressing when he says whatever things are lovely. There was a business that had a motto, and the motto for the business was one word, and the one word was think. T-H-I-N-K. Think. What I want us to understand is that now that we are at whatever things are lovely, God now is very concerned not just with us gathering information. Okay? I want you to listen to this thought that I have. It simply says, God is more interested in what his people are thinking. He's more interested in what his people are thinking. Not so much that you got something in your brain, but what are you thinking? And that's the key. That's going to be the way in which we're going to be able to travel the rest of these months in the year 2019, is because he doesn't want us to just think. We got to think about the right things. He wants us to put our minds on the right things. So the Apostle Paul, as he presents this fifth virtue in our text, uses the word lovely. The word lovely. Many theologians have a variety of thoughts as it relates to what Paul actually means when he says whatever things are lovely. But before we get into defining what it is, I want you to glance in your Bibles, because I want you to take note of the order. Look at the arrangement in your text, okay? And don't get them out of order, because it conveys a powerful message, okay? Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatever things, and look at the first one, are what? True. Whatever things are noble. Whatever things are just. Whatever things are pure. And then he finally arrives at whatever things are lovely. You can't get to any of the idea of what Paul means by lovely until you fully understand the 4 that precedes it. You got me? So when he arrives at that, he wants us to understand. So when I get into explaining what it means, I want you to let your mind stay focused on the other four, because you've heard me say this. The order of things is in a sense, in a way of being progressive. But the point is, you can't focus on one, because if you lose sight of one of the virtues, the enemy attacks the rest and you are no good. Everybody got me? All right. When Paul says, whatever things are lovely, the word lovely in the text means one, agreeable. It means agreeable. It also means acceptable. It can mean pleasing. It could mean attractive. Lovable. Which brings it down to a level of where Paul is saying it evokes a response of love. Okay? Now, what in the world, or why would Paul, at this point, list whatever things are lovely? What is the point that Paul is trying to drive home? The idea here is that believers are to think on that which produces and keeps harmony rather than that which causes strife. Let me say that again, okay? The idea that Paul is driving home is that believers are to think on that which produces and keeps harmony rather than producing or causing strife. Everybody got me? I'm going to make it real simple for you. What you need to write in your notes is that we are to think on that which produces harmony versus strife. Got me? That's that. The key things I want you to write in your notes would simply be it's harmony and strife. That's it. That's what he wants us to think on. Okay? From a fundamental perspective, very practical perspective, Paul is saying to us that which calls forth love, that which calls forth love. Okay? So if I'm thinking the way God wants me to think, then it ought to draw in people around me. Nobody wants to be around a negative, deadbeat thinking person, other than other deadbeat thinking people. Okay? Now, I'm going to carry you to a particular dictionary. And I just want you, Webster's American Family Dictionary describes the word lovely like this. That dictionary says, having a beauty that appeals to the heart or mind as well as to the eye. Now that should have opened up some understanding. Let me say that again, because I know y'all right. It simply says, having a beauty that appeals to the heart or mind as well as the eye. Now y'all stay with me, because for some reason I see puzzled looks. It is possible then to look lovely and be hellish. Y'all see what the dictionary is defining. So that means everything that looks lovely is not always lovely. So what's more important is that one who looks a certain way must be mindful that their actions has to line up with their look. Everybody got it? Oh boy. Okay. When you then look at Philippians, did I didn't. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I read it. Philippians chapter, where we are, I'm going to read 8 and 9. Right back to where we started. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of a good report, if there is any virtue and if there is any praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Watch him now. Verse 9. The things which you learned and received and heard and saw in me, these do, and the God of peace will be with you. Stay with me. So Paul in verse 8 lists one of the virtues as lovely. But did you hear the statement I made in verse 9? See, in 8, I list the what? The virtues. But Paul says, and watch what he says now. He says, the things which you learned and received and what? Heard and saw where? In me. He commands us. He says, now these what? Do. But look at the end result. And the what? God of peace will what? Be with you. So what Paul now does is tells us collectively that within all of these virtues, that's a picture of loveliness. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now let me explain to you why it's a picture of loveliness. The peace of God goes with you when you present the virtues in the text. But more importantly, we are focusing on things that are what? Lovely. All of us want to live an untroubled or problem-free life. Everybody's sitting in here. I don't think nobody is running looking for trouble. Are you? The problem, however, is this. It is more difficult to maintain peace and live from it based on the idea of your present experience. That means it's hard to find peace if you sick. I didn't say you couldn't. I said it's what? It's hard. It's hard to find the peace of God when you're in the midst of just problem after problem after problem. That's tough. But people have a tendency to talk without really thinking because they have removed themselves sometimes from the reality of where you might really be. You got me? So Paul in verse 9 tells us that the peace of God does what? Goes with her. Watch this. If everything, I don't even know if I highlight it, that's it. If everything around you is in turmoil, it is difficult to concentrate on enjoying inner peace. Is everybody hearing me? I didn't say you couldn't, but it's a struggle because it is a constant back and forth. Because remember now, it's how you view turmoil. It's how you see turmoil. It's how much turmoil did to you the last time. It's whether you learned a lesson in the turmoil as to whether or not you can find inner peace with God. Does everybody hear me? So go back to my first illustration. A person can look lovely but be hellish. Let's go talk for a moment about the word lovely. First of all, the word lovely is a descriptive word. Okay? What I mean by that is, by it being a descriptive word, it is simply because of its relationship to things we value and to what amount of attention we give to that to which we love. Got me? You can't just walk up and say something is lovely and just walk away. That means there had to have been a process of some kind of thought pattern going on inside of your mind. When we love something or love someone, doesn't matter whether it's something or whether it is someone, we often described the thing or the person as being lovely. We together? Everybody all right with me? All right, let's take it another step up. You cannot love something and not value or give attention to it. If a parent says, I love my child, but never show the child attention, you have a misconception of love. Okay? So now, watch the whole idea. We need to consider now the virtue that Paul lists as whatever things are lovely. Now, y'all stay with me. If then we say Jesus is lovely, but we never give him any attention. We misunderstood the virtue. Now you're with me. You got me? Because wherever your attention is, it will give birth to understanding that which is lovely. If you have no attention toward what you claim is lovely, something is wrong. Hello, y'all. Let's talk then before I can allow the virtue of that which is lovely to dwell in us. Let's talk about him who gives the virtue. That's God. Okay? You cannot separate that which is lovely from love. Got me? Psalm 91, verses 11 and 12. Okay? Here's what I want us to grasp. God values his time with us and his attentiveness with us. That means you don't have to go look for God. You don't have to do that. God is right here. All right? Now listen to what the psalmist says that he's capable and does. The psalmist says, for he shall give his angels charge over you. Now, we don't even believe in angels. But right now, as you sit in this sanctuary, he has dispatched his angels to watch over us. We don't pray to angels, but they are God's protectors. Look at the text. For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you all, keep you in what? All your ways. He gives us attention. Have you ever wondered why you didn't do a certain thing that you wanted to do and you ended up not doing it? You didn't just magically change your mind. Or have you ever been doing something and ended up not doing that and ended up doing something else and went, why did I do that? Watch him in verse 12. Watch him now. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. Now you can't get no greater attention from God than that. Think about it now. He's in our midst right now. He watches over us. None of us sitting here know how close we come to danger, to troubles, to problems, to all kinds of situations, because we don't normally think like that. We think in the sense, only reason I got hit, that car hit me, I did this and I went, no. It didn't take you out. So to start off with the idea of understanding whatever things are lovely, if you're going to think right, you got to think on how good God has been in allowing his angels to watch over us. Not your problem, but the angels who watches over us. Take you someplace else. Lamentations, chapter 3. Verses 22 and 23. God is so off the chain. He gives me something brand new with each day. Look at what the text says. Through the Lord's mercies, we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. This is new. Look at what. Back it back up. Through the Lord's mercies, we are not consumed. You are not consumed because you made up in your mind what you weren't going to do. Hello, y'all. You are not consumed based on the Lord's what? Mercies, because his compassions fail not. Even at our lowest, he's still yet at his best toward us. I'm trying to steal your brain to cause you to think on those things that are what? Lovely. And I want you to start thinking about God. Look at verse 23. They are new every morning. They are new every morning. Now there's a connection with that. That means God never gives us the gift of the day without new mercies. And the reason you get new mercies every day is because each day is a new day. Boy, y'all. I mean, think about it. Whatever the mess was yesterday, fine. But today, this very moment, you are experiencing new mercies. Now, you know why they're new. Because God is in your yesterday, your today, and your tomorrow. So when you were in your yesterday, he saw your today. You didn't see it. You didn't see it. You had no idea of what today was going to bring. You had an agenda. Don't go ahead of yourself. You are in the day, but not out of any goodness of your own. I just told you his compassions what? Fail not. Whew. So if you're going to think on things that are lovely, start with God. Got to start with God. Okay? That's not enough. Let's go to Psalm 103, verse 2. Now keep in mind, we're building a good concept on that which is lovely. Okay? God gives us all of himself, and he's very attentive to us. So if you look back in your notes, make sure you're building a bridge, because first he gives his angels to be what? Over you, charge over you. Then secondly, we establish the fact that in each day we experience new mercies. Now, in Psalm 103, verse 2, I want you to know he does not just give you benefits, but he gives us rich. Listen to what the psalmist said. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. I'm going to take you somewhere. People with sense on a job does not always look at how much it pays. But a person with sense looks at benefits. Can I tell you why? Because you can have a nice salary and no benefits. which means every time you get paid, you pay your own. You ain't really making. Boy, y'all, you got me? So in a relationship with God, there are benefits. You already know two of them. Angels and new mercies. But it goes deeper than just that. Despite the storms of life, to think on things that are lovely, you don't have to go far. You don't have to look over the hill. Just look at yourself. Just look at your own life. We were headed to hell. He didn't turn us around. He changed us. And to make us secure, we know we've been bought with a price. And we are blood covered. Couple of more. Move on. Psalm 23, verse 6. Now keep in mind, you got new mercies in every new day. But to make sure I think on things that are lovely when it comes to God, God in this verse tells me that he releases something to follow me. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me. Not a few days out the week. Not your favorite day of the week, but the text said all the days of what? And what? I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So whenever I get to a point that I need to think on things that are lovely, if what's around me doesn't seem lovely, it shouldn't interfere with my thinking, because if I start off thinking about God, I got goodness and I got mercy in every day. I don't care how much hell you catch in a day. Goodness and mercy is still with you. Yeah. Following you, Doc. And it looks like sometimes goodness and mercy has skipped town. It feels that way because we have that saying, if it ain't one thing, it's another. But it does not change the text. Boy, y'all making me work. Hebrews chapter 13, verses 5 and 6. We can conclude then that God has invested his time, his love, and his attention in us. Can I prove it? I have full assurance in what I just said. Let me prove it. Listen to what the writer of Hebrews says. Let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Don't move it. Go back. Go back. Stay right there for a second. Here's what I want you to see. The problem as to why we can't think on things that are lovely, too many of us never experience spiritual contentment. See, it doesn't mean you have to be satisfied where you are. If God's going to take you to the next level and you are on this level, he's not telling you to develop a mentality that this is as far as I'm going to go. That's not what he's teaching. What he's teaching is, on the level you are on, show me that I'm with you. Don't let what surrounds you control you. Then I'll move you to the next level. So that doesn't mean, well, you know, I'm just going to be content. I ain't going to worry about that. No. I'm going to be just sit right back here and just make them, I ain't going to, what little bit I got, that's it. Wrong attitude. Wrong attitude. If God got a bushel of apples, why are you satisfied with the one you eating? Does everybody hear me? So when we talk about things that are lovely, it's so embedded in our spirit and in our thinking. It's hard when you are surrounded by a storm to not think trouble. Does everybody understand? Good. Y'all nodding your head. I'm praying you do. All right. Now that we've said all of that, listen. Considering then what God does in valuing his children, I want to steal your thinking and tell you, if you're going to think of things that are lovely, start with God. See, sometimes we try to be pseudo-holy and look inside trouble, and we want to see where the blessing is. Doesn't work. You got to know how to be still. The question now is, how should we then treat one another? Woo. See, because people are chasing that which is lovely in your spirit. And just like the subject matter that Brother Shelley is teaching on in life application, forgiveness, we got a problem with things that are lovely. Because if your circumstance doesn't change, you don't think nothing is lovely. Just like we think when it comes to forgiveness, our issue is, I got to tell you what they did to me. As if God didn't know that they did it. But we never tell him that we are not responding to that which they did to us the right way. So you can't wait likewise on your circumstances to give birth to things that are lovely. I sure hope y'all getting this. It's just like if you're looking for people to do what you think they ought to do, you already in trouble. Because that's not going to happen. So likewise, your circumstances are not going to dictate to you things that are lovely. Listen to this. A little girl was taught how to pray. What stunned the crowd in church was what she said in the prayer. I want you to listen to this. Lord, make all the bad people good, and make all the good people nice. Woo! Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. See, we focus on the first part of the prayer. Make all the bad people good. But there's some good people that just ain't nice. That's the whole essence of what Paul is teaching when he says whatever things are what? Lovely. And we can't think on each other because sometimes Christians just ain't nice. That's what hurts us. Hurts us real bad. It's us. We become the blockage to folk coming to the kingdom of God. And I'm not saying we should sit up here and be phony and pretend we all that. No, I do not believe, and that's not what I'm teaching. However, I am saying Christians ought to be lovely. And sometimes we just ain't. Make all the good folk nice. Why is it that Christians just ain't nice? We been in the body of Christ all these years, and we ain't nice. Listen to this. And I learned this just paying attention. You don't really see some of us in action. I wear, those y'all who are around me, I wear caps 24/7. You see me with a suit on, I got my caps. And there are times that I really don't pay attention to which color cap I got on. But they have become conversation pieces. Okay? And I do mean good ones, of people that probably would never utter a word to me. But because of the message on the cap, they respond. Are y'all with me? All right. Doesn't matter where I go. I can be in Walmart, McDonald's, places I go on a regular basis. I'm there. I have established about, I will say on an average at McDonald's about 6 or 7 white people I have no earthly idea to their names. Don't know them by name. They don't know me. All they know is that when I enter into McDonald's, the help behind the counter, white and black, says, "Good morning, Pastor." Nobody calls me Pastor Paul. They just say, Pastor. So naturally, being that loud in McDonald's, they turn around like, who is this Negro? You know, they look at me. Now, I got this cap on. So that means, irregardless to some new person behind the counter that might be moving slower than normal, I got to maintain a spirit of kindness despite the slothfulness. Did everybody hear me? Did you hear me up there? Okay. So that means why? Just now listen to me good. Stay with me. The cap dictates a message. But now comes the time for my lifestyle to line up with the message that's on the cap. Boy, I hope y'all. Does everybody understand? So I have to be very careful. So now people look more, they look right at the top of my head, and the cap that I had on last night had Superman's emblem, but Jesus was written in the middle. Big letters right in the middle. Walk in the store and the attention goes right there. So I'm going in the bank. The man says, we partners. I lost consciousness for a moment because I was like, what is he talking about? Then we got up near the counter. He said, God is good, isn't he? I said, yes. Now I got white folk saying in places, God's good all the time. You know that was our phrase. And all the time, God is what? Good. Here's the point with loveliness. Boy, y'all better stay with me. We as Christians got to do more than wear something that dictates a message. It's got to be within the character of the person wearing what we're wearing. So it's better not to wear a cap. Boy, y'all better stay with me now. It's better not to have the cross around your neck and act the part than to have on these things and they can't find Jesus in you. I sure. Boy, y'all got me sweating. Here's the deal. What you as a Christian are when you are alone with a person who is of the lowest of the low. How you treat that person is who you really are. It's not, stay with me now, that which is lovely is not about publicly treating a person a certain way. It's what you do with the lowest of people behind closed doors. See, some Christians can clown because you look down on the cashier. You look, boy, y'all, do you understand where we're going? This is why we're not nice, because we got certain folk and certain people we line up with. And if you are not in my arena, you are beneath me. See, that's the problem that we as Christians face. The issue is one thing to some people is this, but we get them behind over in the corner. If you ain't of my statue, I'm not with you. You got to treat everybody, okay? It's like that white man who put on bomb clothes. A big, huge church called him his pastor. And he dressed up like a hobo and stood out in front of the church. All them folk bypassed him and went in that church. When it was about time for service to start, he walked all the way down the aisle of the church. And as he was walking, he was taking off the outfit that he had on and headed to the pulpit because he saw the real them. That's what Paul means. Paul is teaching us if we're going to think about things that are lovely, we got to look at ourselves and treat everybody with respect. And us don't do that because we ain't nice. I'm not trying to be funny. Christians can be some hellish cutthroats. And you just don't understand, Pastor. This is the way. But you come up in here, we ought to give birth to kindness, to loveliness. Am I making sense to anybody? But you can find sometimes more of what I'm talking about with folk in the street. This is why games are so powerful. The church ain't doing what the gangs are doing. We don't really reach out and bring you in. We fake. Boy, y'all got so quiet. We fake. Notice I've even had to have folk get up, clap. Because sometimes y'all just sit there like, oh, okay. I'm just being honest. But this is how we treat each other. But when you join a gang, you're in it. And you're in it for life. And they'll tell you, we got your back. Saints ought to have other saints back. But we ain't nice. We ain't going to even move over and give you a seat. Boy, I can tell when I start hitting. Listen to this. Listen to this. A Christian should not be sour, crabbed, and irritable in his temper. This injures the cause of Christ in your life. See, when we are not lovely toward one another, we present a distorted Christ. And this is how we find a loophole. I got weaknesses just like you got. Shut up. Shut up. All of us in here know we have not yet arrived at a level of perfection. But some folk are still on the same hellish level they were on when they joined the church 90 years ago. Now, what you account for that? Come on now. See, you can't keep saying those things. That's an excuse. That's an excuse. We got to grow and become better than who we are. That's just practical. But again, here's the way out. You just don't know how they treat me. That doesn't give us the right to not be lovely. Some people are just evil as hell. Just evil. I mean, they wake up evil. They're not lovely. But at the same time, we have to live a lifestyle above their hellishness. Do y'all know how hard that is? It's hard. It's hard. But we got to do it. We got to do it. If we don't, we can't think on things that are lovely when we ourselves are not lovely in our relationship with God, which affects our relationship with others. Here's what we're going to do. Next Wednesday, I'm going to take you away from Philippians 4 and 8. And I'm going to take you somewhere else that Paul is going to allow us the opportunity to say some things that's going to connect with what he is saying in Philippians 4 and 8. Put a pen right there, Sister Paul. They don't see it. I see it, but they don't. So you put a pen right there, because I don't want to start with that text, and we can't. It'll take us a few minutes to deal with it. Okay? I need y'all to understand. Paul is talking about objects of thought, things that are what? Lovely. You cannot think of things that are lovely. It's hard when you are surrounded by turmoil. I didn't say you couldn't. But if you're going to think on God, that's who you need to think on in the midst of a stormy situation. Sometimes you have to remind yourself, in spite of the hell I'm catching, God is still good to me. That's the attitude you have to take. Because if you're waiting on that situation to change, you might be just standing there for a while, because it ain't going to change. Okay? So put a pin there. Put a pin there.